I would like to say up front that the subject matter tends to be quite emotive. So if you're not in the space to hear a discussion about this sort of thing, maybe delay the watching of this. Hello there. Before we get into today's video, I'd just like to take this moment to let you know that we're chasing 500 subscribers. So if you would please leave a sub, that would be great. Enjoy the vid. Peace. So this video is about my mental health in 2022. I've never really struggled in a sense with mental health, in the sense that I've never been depressed or diagnosed, at least depressed, or extreme bouts of negative mental health. I don't know if that's how you phrase it, but I've never really had that. I've obviously had periods when I've been a little more down than up, but I wouldn't say I've ever felt for a long period of time hopeless or anything like that. But I still think it's important to reflect on the state of your mind as you go out your daily affairs and your life in general. There's still a lot to learn from that, and me personally, I know I learn a lot from these sorts of reflections. So there's a lot of things I learned about myself this year in relation to mental health. In particular, I noticed that shyness is still quite a big factor in my life. I noticed that it's quite difficult for me in large groups to really immerse myself and open up the way I usually do with, let's say, one-on-one interactions when I'm comfortable with people. I'm generally not someone that does small talk or like chooses to approach people or something like this when I really don't have to.
You know, Kevin, there was talk about you coming back for the playoffs last year, so you really just been working on your game, trying to get back your timing and conditioning, really, to be honest, correct?
Yeah. Come on, man.
So it really takes a lot for me to just come and like sit and like we chat. But it also kind of depends on the day. Some days I just feel like talking to people, other days I just kind of want to be in my zone and do my thing. Nevertheless, I noticed that something I still need to work on, and something that kind of affects how I feel in a certain situation, is just the fact that I'm not the best at kind of immersing myself in group settings. Things to work on. Another thing I noticed is like my sources of stress, right? And if I had to divide it in sort of a ratio, it would probably be like 75% family or relationships or friendships, 25% school or academic related. Now, that might sound like a little bit of a dramatic split. You might think it's a little more school than it is relationships, but I value my relationships and the people around me more so than I do, let's say, my work or academics. It doesn't necessarily hit me too hard if I'm kind of slacking at work or school or something like this, to the same degree that it does if my family or my relationships are falling apart. Through that process, I learned that it's important to be open and communicate to whoever is in your life, and whatever's that cause in that area, the family or relationship space, it's important to communicate how you're feeling and how their actions are affecting how you're feeling. For me personally, that has a big effect on how I feel generally. In addition to that, I noticed I'm notoriously bad at speaking about my problems to other people. I generally never speak about specifics when I'm discussing like whatever's bringing me down or whatever, unless we're really close, or unless you've opened up to me in the same capacity and something like this, or unless I'm just completely like overwhelmed or up to it, then I generally am not gonna discuss with anyone really about whatever's going on in either the school or the family space or whatever space that is bringing me down. It takes quite a lot for me to really open up in that regard. Sometimes just the thought living in your head is the biggest problem. Once you express it, you kind of are able to put it in perspective and realize that maybe it's not as big as a problem as you might have thought it was. There's more time to deal with things, and there may be more avenues that other people may see that you can't see. In doing that though, in talking, you have to kind of be open to hearing the suggestions of others, and that has been something that I haven't been good at. Really listening with intent. I've been told many a time that I need to listen more. We got the bracelet even that says listen, so we're trying our best. You have to understand that other people can see things that you can't, and at least in some of those instances, the things they see can be helpful to you. Mental health wise, how that affects you is that generally if you're open or more willing to accept help, and it's easier to improve your situation. So you gotta stay open, gotta stay willing to hear people out. Then another thing almost tied into the last one is that it's difficult. I've noticed that it's difficult for people to see when I'm struggling. I think it's because of my personality. In general, I'm very relaxed and very calm about my approach to life. How I move, how I speak is even quite, I don't know if you can tell, but like everything just sounds very like very relaxed, very zen, I've been told. Because I come across so like calm, and it sometimes doesn't look like I'm under the same pressures that people are under, but I definitely am. It's difficult to express the magnitude of that if you're not somebody that generally like outbursts or like cries or like kind of falls down or something like this. But that's really where the talking part comes back in, because I find that the more you're able to speak to people and convey your emotions and your experiences, the more they can kind of come towards the understanding that you're actually under a lot of stress and under a lot of pressures. These kinds of things work hand in hand. So like if you're not going to speak and you have a personality like I do where everything is kind of chilled, then people are just not going to know that you're not in a good space. So it's very important, I think, and especially this year I've learned that you have to have people that you firstly can trust with these kind of thoughts and you expressing yourself, and then you have to go about and do that because it really helps. So if I had to put a bow in that or put a ribbon in that, all in all, I'd say my mental health has remained pretty stable throughout the year. Definitely been some pretty low lows. I think when it really gets bad for me is when I freeze. At least I call it a freeze. When I'm overwhelmed, I'll just like sit and stare at whatever for like 6 hours or something, 7 hours. And that's when I know like it's curtains and I need to talk to somebody or whatever. But when it's really good, I generally sit back and just enjoy the moment. There definitely was some volatility in that, but I'd say on the whole, I've been pretty good this year. I'd love to hear how you've been handling, how you generally handle your mental health, how you think about that. That would be fun to discuss in the comment section. So please be sure to jump in there, give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe. Trying to get to 500 as we said. That's everything I have to say. So peace everybody. I wish you all the best.